I want to start out this video by asking you all a simple question.
You like jazz?
Everyone likes jazz, right? How could you not? With that awesome car mode, cool demeanor, and one of the best voices of all time, Jazz is, as we call in the biz, a superstar. With a memorable presence in the G1 series, and even living through the childhood-scarring bloodbath that was the '86 movie. So I'm really glad I finally have a fresh new generation's version of the guy. I mean, I had the Power of the Primes Jazz, but come on, that barely counts. Let's all get good and jazzed with Studio Series 86 Jazz. So as I think you've noticed, this figure is a great likeness to the handsome hunk we all know and love. As far as looks go, it's spot on. It's really hard for anyone to hate on this because Jazz has one of those iconic car bot designs to him, harkening back to the real early days of the franchise, and as such has a huge hood chest that never ceases to make me grin. This is a near perfect version of the character. This figure really only has one problem. Trust me, we'll get to that. But everything else really couldn't have hyped me up any further. He has a handsome head with his adorable teddy bear ears, super love his cheek ear muffs and silver painted face. And look, he's wearing shades to let you know he's one of the cool kids. Are you cooler than this? If you're watching this YouTube channel, the answer is yes. Now this will be more evident in the car mode, but it's worth noting that as this is a Studio Series figure, it aims to be as screen accurate as possible. In doing so, the aesthetic is relatively light on excessive robot-y detail, and includes no displayable prow-like door wings or deafening shoulder cannon, which might steam some people, but for me, I still feel like it's working. If you're familiar with the modern 2020s Transformer figures, then you should basically know what to expect when it comes to posing. It shouldn't surprise you, unless you're like me and you never get tired of seeing ankle tilt. The colors are rather minimal on this release. I mean, it's basically just white, black, silver, blue, and a bit of red. But you know, it's hard to argue with that since that is what Jazz looks like. I mean, I guess we brought this on ourselves. We are the ones demanding for G1 accuracy. Overall, that kind of is the mantra throughout this figure. It tries to look like Jazz, and it looks like Jazz. It manages to pull it off with great fashion. It shouldn't be understated just how much better this figure is compared to the Power of the Primes figure. Way better shoulders, more purposeful and distinct sculpting, way less rattly. It may be smaller than the original figure, but the quality is so much better. I guess if Jazz has taught us anything, it's that size matters not. Speaking of which, let's talk about his gun. This is the only accessory he comes with, which, you know, is fine. I don't reckon he really needs anything else. I don't recall him using any other accessories in the movie. I don't even remember his gun being in the movie. What I'm saying is, if you think his lack of many accessories is a problem, you're wrong. So yeah, judging strictly off the robot mode, Jazz is superb. I can't think of anything that would substantially improve this thing. Maybe add a bit of blue in front of his neck or whatever, but you know, Toy Hacks exists. So far it's just a lovely robot mode. Jazz has as much pizzazz as pizzazzable. Transforming Jazz is mostly pretty good and just about does everything you could want from a figure like this. I love how his arms rotate inwards, exposing the tires which are mainly concealed in the robot mode chest. Alright, brace yourselves. So, you know how I said that I have a single problem with this figure? Well, here it goes. Okay, so Jazz's entire roof section is made out of this clear plastic which has been painted over white, which allows for the windows to be clear, which looks really good. Here's the problem though. If you're not aware, clear plastic is notorious for how brittle it can be, and lately Hasbro's just been shoving it onto so many figures like it's going out of style. And I don't understand why. Did they just use all the good plastic on Earthrise Scorponok so we gotta deal with this cheapo translucent ticking time bomb? Like, just use regular plastic and paint the windows on. No one would care. Sure, a few people might complain, but those people are losers. And I should mention that I have seen instances of this clear plastic cracking on other copies of this figure. I just wish Hasbro would stop using clear plastic on essential transformation components, and it's really disappointing because this alt mode and the transformation are both super great and overall really enjoyable, but gives me this constant fear that I'm about to crack the plastic, you know? Anywho, moving on from that, this alt mode really does look fantastic. I know it can be a bit repetitive in these videos to stress that they do look like their character models. Like, of course they would look like their characters, right? But for a long while, there was several decades when they would just give us heavy interpretations instead, which is totally fine and valid, not knocking the imagination there. It's just that it feels so satisfying to have a generation's Jazz figure that not only looks like his most classic self, but is a great toy even separate from that. Again, this harkens back to the cartoon look more so than the original G1 toy, so no Meisterburger Burgermeister sticker on the windshield, but again, Toy Hacks is readily available. If I did have any nitpicks with his car mode, I would say that I wish he had the blue stripe on the back order panel, but I could just cry about it. Also, Jazz is sporting the number 14 as opposed to his usual 4. This is because back in the 80s, Hasbro had some of their Transformers characters' car modes be lawsuit level similar to very specific real-world race cars. In Jazz's case, it was the Martini Racing Porsche 935-76. So nowadays, Hasbro has to stick this copyright dodging 14 on the side. Apparently, this is a nod to Jazz's Diaclone days, which I suppose is interesting. Looking at the whole picture though, Jazz is a lovely little thing. It's a real shame about the clear plastic because outside of that I feel this figure does everything else just right. It's just a jivin' and jubilant Jazz for the ages. So I guess to answer my question from earlier, yes, I do like Jazz, but please be careful with the clear plastic. Have a nice day.